I guess, today was the first day of early voting here in North Carolina, and you were slated to visit.
Yes.
How important is our state to your campaign's victory?
It's very important. In fact, I was just in Raleigh last week. I'm losing sense of time, but just in the last couple of weeks for sure. North Carolina is so important for a lot of reasons. It's certainly important because the voters of North Carolina have often really helped determine who will be the president of the United States. But also, I just love North Carolina, and I think that North Carolinians and the condition of life and the dreams and aspirations of the people there really are a measure of who and where we are as a country. And, so I look at a number of issues that range from the impact of the pandemic to what we need to do to invest in the future of our country and the economy of our country. And I think North Carolina has so much in terms of not only challenges, but the promise of America. So that's how I think about the state. I really do love the state.
And in the video you released, you talked about last week, your visit to Raleigh. You released a video and you said you needed North Carolina voters to help you in Biden. How can North Carolina voters help you?
Well, early voting starts today, October 15th. And so let's start by please voting today, voting early. We ask everyone to make a plan to vote, and that plan should include voting early, know where you're going to vote, how you're going to vote, when you're going to vote, because first of all, we know that so many people have fought for our right to vote, and we need to honor that fight. But we also know there's so much at stake in this election. I think about healthcare as an example. Every visit I've paid to North Carolina, especially in these last couple of years, healthcare is probably one of the number one issues on people's mind. And when we look at the choices that folks have in this election, it's about choosing candidates, and in this case in particular, Joe Biden, who will expand healthcare, who will protect people with pre-existing conditions. And on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, literally suing to get rid of the Affordable Care Act that brought healthcare to over 20 million people. So these are the kinds of things that are at stake. And North Carolina also, as we all know, has a history of trying to suppress the vote, in particular of Black voters. And I think that it is important for us to always commit ourselves to not only, like I said, honor the ancestors who fought for our right to vote, but to never let anybody be more powerful than our vote in trying to suppress our vote. Let's make sure that we get out there and we show people the power of our voice through our vote.
I want to get back to the reason why we're doing this now. You canceled your travel today because of two campaign staffers testing positive for the virus. I just want to ask, were you in direct contact with them, and have you been tested?
Well, I've been tested every day, including today, and thank God it was negative. And each time it has been. And our campaign from the beginning has been very careful and cautious about making sure that we adhere to the highest standards from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. And so we just thought it's best that we postponed my travel over the weekend. But then I'm back on the road physically on Monday, but I'm on the road virtually today and tomorrow and Sunday on talking to voters.
Speaking of the coronavirus, President Trump has tested positive. People in his inner circle have tested positive, even his own household. Yeah. Given your situation today, give me your thoughts on the fact that he's still holding these big rallies, campaign gatherings with minimal social distancing and limited mask wearing.
Listen, from the beginning, Donald Trump was informed on January 28th of how serious this pandemic would be. He was informed that this virus could kill people. He was informed that it was airborne. He was informed that it was 4 to 5 times more deadly than the flu. He was informed that it could impact children. And he held on to that information and did not share it with the American people. So the parents out there, the teachers out there, the small businesses out there, imagine what you would have done in preparation if you had known on January 28th of what this virus would turn out to be. But he had this information and he covered it up. And then not only did he cover it up, he suggested that it wasn't serious. He suggested that people should not wear masks. He suggested that if you wear a mask, you're on one side of his ledger. If you don't wear a mask, you're on another side of his ledger. It was completely irresponsible. And frankly, this administration has been the greatest failure of any presidential administration we've ever seen. We're looking at over 215,000 American lives that have been lost in just the last several months. Over 7.5 million people have contracted this virus, many of whom are going to be classified as now having a pre-existing condition, which again, if he is successful in court, will mean that you could potentially be banned from coverage. So across the board, Donald Trump has been a failure, and he's failed the American people, and it's the American people who are suffering as a result.
I want to turn the page now and talk a little bit about your membership of the Judiciary Committee. Earlier this week, you put on your prosecutor's hat. You grilled the Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, about the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
And at one point, you asked her if systemic racism still exists. In the end, you called the proceedings an illegitimate process.
Right.
Why?
Because, so it's still going on. The hearings are still going on. And we are 19 days away from the end of the election. And it's important to recognize that. We're not talking about an election year. We're not talking about election time. We're talking about the fact that over 14, I think as of today, maybe even 15 million Americans have already voted. And it is only right, and the majority of Americans agree with this, it is only right that the American people choose who will be their next president. And then that president chooses who will serve for this lifetime appointment to that vacant seat on the United States Supreme Court. So the illegitimacy of it is the illegitimacy of trying to push through a nominee while the American people are voting for their president. And not only that, right now, again, all the people who are standing and parked waiting to get food in a food line, 1 in 5 mothers describing her children under the age of 12 as being hungry. We're in the midst of a hunger crisis in America. People have been unemployed. Over 30 million people have been unemployed during this pandemic. And there is a bill sitting around that would provide relief to American workers, to American families. And they're not pushing that through. They're pushing through this nominee for political reasons, which we believe includes getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, which again, in the middle of a pandemic would strip over 20 million Americans of their health coverage. It is wrong. It is frankly not logical. It is unfair, and it is callous. The American people are hurting right now. And I know, having spent time in North Carolina, that this is a real issue for the people of this state and around our country. And you frankly deserve more from your leaders. You deserve that they see you and they understand your struggle and that they're here to provide relief during these moments so we can get through this and get back up on our feet. But, they're playing politics.
We just have time for one more question.
One more question? Okay, let's talk about the topic of the president's concession, a potential peaceful transfer of power. The president has already drawn a line, and it sounds like there could be some contention. What are your thoughts on that, on what he has said about that?
Let me tell you something. I believe that the American people are always going to fight for our democracy. And our democracy is as strong as the American people's willingness to fight for it. And so fight we will. I have faith in us. I have faith, no matter who you vote for, that we will stand up and say, we, as a point of pride, have always had a peaceful transfer of power after the people have spoken in an election. And it is most important that we stand up for the integrity of our democracy. Whoever we vote for, whatever party we were registered to vote with, that we stand up for the democracy of the United States of America.
All right, Senator, thank you. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you. Good to see you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but sometime soon again, okay?
All right, stay safe. Thank you.
You too. Take care.